everyone, and welcome to the first ever That One Gaming Podcast Side Quest, a brand new series of podcasts where I sit down with a friend or two and we chat about modern games in more depth than we typically go into in the main podcast. I'm Colin, otherwise known as Delicious Morsels, and today I've got a friend of the show and longtime personal friend joining me, Max. How you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Glad to be here.
All right. Yeah, glad to have you. So, today we are going to tell you why you should play Fire Emblem Engage. So, we both played through the game and finished it. I thought it would be good to first just kind of give our general history with the series, because a lot of people's opinions of Fire Emblem Engage in particular, I think kind of does stem from where they started playing Fire Emblem the series. Because, as we all know, Three Houses did bring in a lot of new people to the franchise. So, where did you get your start, Max?
So I started actually on the Game Boy Advance with Blazing Sword, and then after that I played the Sacred Stones and Path of Radiance on GameCube. Went back and played Binding Blade on an emulator for, and because there was a fan translation for that. Played Awakening, played Fates, Shadow of Valencia, and then also, and then Engage. And I still have Radiant Dawn on my list, and I didn't end up finishing Fates, but maybe one day.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of about the same as me. I started with the first GBA game, which was Blazing Sword, which is actually the second GBA game technically, but the first one we got. I had a friend that let me borrow their Game Boy Advance with that game in middle school. It was probably 8th grade or so. And I just fell in love with that game instantly. I thought the overall aesthetic of the game was so cool. I loved the way the combat scenes played out with the zoom in on the characters and they fought each other. And I thought the sprite animation was really well done. And I was hooked from there. But I never actually got to buy any of the games in this series. The next game that I actually ended up playing was just a couple years ago it was last year actually, when they announced that the 3DS eShops were closing down. So I went and picked up all of the Fire Emblems on the 3DS and I started playing Awakening for the first time. And it was just like, all right, really enjoyed that. I haven't finished it yet, but it's definitely one of my favorite entries that I've played. And then I have also I'm working my way through Three Houses still, and then Engage, which I have finished. But yeah, so that's about our history with the series. So we're both kind of longtime fans of the series, and I think Fire Emblem Engage in particular was really designed with that in mind, being more of an anniversary celebration of the series than something wholly new. So let's just kind of dive in to the gameplay, and I just gotta pose the question right here. Is this just the best gameplay that Fire Emblem has seen so far?
It was definitely like the biggest thing that stuck out to me, at least in this one, was, from the beginning, it's really been about the gameplay. So crazy enough, in Blazing Blade, I actually skipped all of the story when I was younger. I ended up only playing for the gameplay and the animations and everything else, and that's honestly what sold me on the whole thing to begin with.
Yeah, I really that made Lynn a favorite character of mine instantaneously. Was playing that game.
Oh,
I just really enjoyed how cool she was. Like her ability to use not only be effective at close range with that katana, but also be really good with a bow was really fun. But I would say personally, just of the games that I have played, I think this is my favorite overall gameplay in the series. I really enjoyed the engage mechanic itself. I thought it added a lot of variety and customization to the game in ways that you could pair a sword user emblem with a sword user character and get a pretty good enhancement there. But what I really liked about it is that you could take an emblem with a sword and give it to a character that doesn't really typically use swords and give them that extra variety in their combat repertoire as well. So it gave it a lot of customization that I really enjoyed.
Oh, absolutely. It was nice seeing kind of what builds you could make, and it really adds to the replayability of the game, where you can kind of like make the characters how you want more so than the other games. Like I know they had skills and whatever, but like this really added a whole extra layer of customization.
Yeah, and another thing that was really really cool that they did with this game is they finally actually like fully modeled the battlefields in a way that you're not like cutting to a predefined scene based on whatever terrain your battle is taking place on. And it's not just some generic scene. Like if you have two units and they're standing in front of a house when they fight each other, the camera actually physically zooms in and they do that fight right in front of that house. And that was such a cool addition. And it's so cool to
Yeah.
finally see that in the series, because Three Houses seemed like it could have.
Sure, it really adds to the game.
Yeah, it adds a lot more to it, and it makes the battlefield feel more important,
Right.
because it's not just like this stage. It's not just like this game board anymore. Like now it's actually a physical living breathing object in the game.
Oh, absolutely.
Then speaking of like the environments being fully modeled and stuff, like I really enjoyed how after every battle you were actually able to run around in a small chunk of every single battlefield, and then you could pick up like cats and stuff like that. I loved picking up all these animals, but at the same time it was kind of funny that it's like you finish all these battles and then you just walk around the battlefield stealing everybody's pets and bringing them back to your compound.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I just fought to save your home, now pay me tribute by lending me your cat. I had so many cats.
Yeah, my main thing with that was I learned really quickly that the dogs always give you ore. So the only
Oh.
animals I ever had out was the dogs because I always wanted more ore for more enhancement stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I had like probably 100 cats by the time I had finished the game,
So
and
like real life, right?
yeah, so like real life. One of the things that kind of made me sad, I guess we can move on and talk about the Somniel now, and that's kind of like the this game's version of the monastery from Three Houses, basically, where it's just a big hub world and there's a bunch of activities that you can do, and it's where you can kind of talk to all of your party members and all that. But one of the things that you can do, like I mentioned, is collect all these animals from throughout the world and the battlefields and stuff, bring them back, and then you can have them set out in this little field. And it kind of made me sad that you could only have 5 animals out at a time, because my Alir had like the crazy cat lady starter pack going on. Just 5 cats sitting around out in the grass, hanging out. And they always gave me fish, naturally.
Yeah.
But
Did
if I
you
were,
mess around with Sami at all? Like the little pet thing that you could feed?
yeah,
I didn't. I tried, but like the animations took so long that I ended up stop doing it after a while.
yeah, like I gave it a try at first. It took me forever to find him at first, because
Yeah.
like I wasn't sure where he was at first. And then when I finally did find him, I played around with it a little bit, but then I found that maybe I just wasn't doing the proper thing or whatever, but I wasn't getting his like happiness gauge to move at all. So I was like, okay, well, you're just going to be this cute little thing in the background of my photos then, because I don't feel like playing with this guy. Poor Sami. I like him. He's cute. You can dress him up, give him a little top hat.
Right.
But yeah, I just basically turned him into a prop for photo mode at that point. I had a lot of fun with the photo mode, actually. Like it was a little bit disappointing in that there were only like set positions that your characters could be in. Like I think you could only have up to 3 characters at a time, and you can't move them around at all. You just get like 3 different positions to put them in. But then you can pick their poses and stuff like that and do that kind of thing. So I was like messing around, having girls fighting over Marth, and Marth just not having it. And
Just not
he's
caring.
just like, how did I get myself into this?
Right.
And then I had the same thing where they're like fawning over Roy because Roy's our boy. He's another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
As soon as I found Roy, I just immediately staged a photo of Alira and one of the other girls just kind of fawning over him. And he's just sitting there in the foreground, just like patting the back of his head. He's like, oh boy.
Amazing.
And then when I finally had Lynn and Marth and Roy, I staged the perfect photo of Lynn being pissed off at the 2 of them because she never got to be playable in Smash Bros. And I was like, from the second...
That is pretty sad.
Yeah, right? Because, like, of all the characters that...
She's just an assist trophy.
Yeah, it's like they could have done something so cool with her in Smash because she's got the sword and the bow.
For sure.
Total cop-out, Sakurai. What the hell? You did our girl dirty. Yeah, and there's all sorts of other things that you could... Did you do any of the, like, fortune-telling at all?
I tried it a couple times, but I didn't get anything too crazy. So I think I ended up forgetting about it because I was too busy, like, trying to make, like, the mega team by, like, doing skirmish battles and stuff.
Yeah, I tried it when I first unlocked it, and I kept getting negative fortunes, except when I made him read his fortune, and he's like, oh, looks like I have great fortune ahead. It's like, really? Really? So I was like, all right, you're a total fraud. Now just follow me around and dance for me. I don't care. So I guess let's take a second and talk about the music a little bit. And really the only thing I wanted to say about the music, aside from the fact that it's fantastic, is what the heck happened with that opening theme?
Yeah.
That was just...
My problem with the music was, like, there were some of the battle themes, like when you zoomed in to fight, I wanted that to keep playing when I was on the map screen.
Yeah.
Because, like, it was so good that I was just like, I don't want this to stop.
Yeah, because, like...
But, like, it was fantastic.
Yeah, because, like, it would have, like, kind of like a subdued version of the song playing.
Yep, without the bass or something, and then it would add it in as soon as you're in the battle.
And it's, like, picks up and it amps up and stuff. Yeah, I found myself really wanting that too. Like, there was a lot of push and pull there. But, like, the title theme for this game is really good, but that English translation was just, like, gross. Kind of.
Did you watch it in did you watch it in Japanese then?
Immediately after that. It's like immediately after, because I listened through it the first time in English and I was like, oh my, this just doesn't, because I heard some people talking about it and I wanted to hear it for myself before I thought anything of it. So I was like, oh my. And then I listened to it in Japanese and I was like, okay, yes, because the melodies and everything are fantastic. It's just the problem is, and I will say, like, especially when it comes to, like, anime and stuff, like, I am all in favor and prefer dubs when it comes to anime and video games and stuff like that. Like, reading subtitles, for me personally, just, I've tried so many times over the years, it always takes me out of the action. There are instances where I can go through it because, like, I mean, I just played through Yakuza 0 last month, and that's completely Japanese with just English subtitles and stuff. So it's not that I can't do it. It's just a personal preference thing. Like, I prefer all of my focus to be what's on the screen, not the couple lines of text at the bottom of the screen as much as possible. So,
definitely.
But when it comes to music, where it's so dependent on the melody, I kind of feel completely different. And when it comes to music, I almost prefer it in the native language over anything else, because once you start to translate in a song, a lot of compromises have to be made to accommodate the melody that's there, because you can't just take something and translate it word for word into a new language and have it make sense.
Yeah, it's not going to be
Yeah,
the same.
it won't make sense in the
or even sound good sometimes.
right, because a lot of times something that may like rhyme or something in another language, when you translate it into, like, if you translate a Japanese lyric into English, those words aren't always going to line up and rhyme in the same way, something like that. So it was like,
Like,
and then obviously coming down to like word choice as well, because there's a million different ways, especially when it comes to turning stuff into English, and English being such a complex language. Like, there's a million different words in the English language that you could use to describe like one phrase in Japanese. You know what I mean?
oh yeah,
So when it came to the song, it's like I wish they would have left that theme song just in Japanese. Like, a lot of games with English dubs and stuff still leave the theme song in Japanese and stuff. Animes do that all the time too. It's like, I think if they left that alone, it would have been a lot better, instead of getting that like slap in the face every time you boot the game up with the English translation on.
for sure. Some of the Tales games actually did that, where they changed it. Like, there, like the Tales the Abyss theme song, they actually had lyrics in the Japanese version, and then in the American version, they just had instrumental.
Yeah, they do a
Some
lot.
of the later games, they have two versions, and I generally prefer the Japanese versions,
Yeah,
mainly for the same reason, where it's just not as good as the original. Like, they do a decent job, and if you didn't know the other version existed, then I'm sure you wouldn't even like notice. But I, yeah, I can't say it really holds a candle to the originals.
yeah, and like some do it better than others, because I mean, like, the Persona soundtracks
Oh yeah,
are just absolutely phenomenal in both English and Japanese.
right,
So like it can be done, but more like, I don't want to say more often than not, but like a lot of times it just doesn't really work as well as it intends to.
for sure.
But yeah, so I said my piece about the music. So now I just want to give a warning for listeners here. This next segment, we're going to start talking about the story and our characters before we, and our favorite characters and all that, before we move into our final thoughts. So this is your warning. If you have not finished Fire Emblem Engage yet and you don't want it spoiled, it's probably where you want to stop listening and then come back and listen more for our thoughts after you finish the game, because we're about to just spoil the heck out of especially the later portion of the game. So, your warning, I'm going to count down, and when I finish the countdown, we're 100% spoilers. So, here we go. Spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we're doing spoilers. For me, the story didn't really grab me until about chapter 10. And that's like, it's kind of typical of Fire Emblem games to like right at about the midway point is when things kind of come crashing down for the heroes and stuff. Like in Fire Emblem Three Houses. You played Three Houses, right?
Like, I did, yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yep.
Which route do you play?
I was Blue Lion.
Okay. I'm playing the Black Eagles route. I'm playing Black Eagles route, which I have heard is the most brutal one. But yeah, so midway through the game, all of a sudden freaking war breaks out, and just this huge plot twist happens, and all of a sudden you're 5 years in the future, and like you fall asleep for 5 years, you wake up and like, oh, 5 years have passed. But so it's something that the series does a lot to kind of kick the story off. So a lot of times the beginning of the story can be kind of dry. And in Engage, it's definitely really dry up until about chapter 10, where you have about half of the emblem rings at this point in the game, and you're going on to face Sombron, the Fell Dragon. And you're getting a little bit overconfident, thinking it's like, well, we have these rings, but Marth is like, this probably isn't a good idea. But you kind of ignore that. And then you just get absolutely creamed by Sombron and his forces, and he steals all the rings. So right after that point is when I started to really pay attention to the story.
Absolutely. I was so like surprised by that. Like that was totally out of left field, and I was so excited because it's true. Like, you get used to your party, you have like 6 out of the 12 rings, and then it's like I'm invincible, and then they take it all away. It was a
Yeah.
very nice surprise. Personally, for me, about chapter 16 is when I started getting interested in the story. Um, it did it did not leave a good first impression, honestly, but after that, I had a great time with it. I was pretty engaged. I'm glad I stuck with it, honestly. I would have probably just stuck with it just specifically for the gameplay and ended up skipping some of the dialogue, but I'm glad I ended up doing the whole thing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what they did with Vale, especially. Like the whole thing with her where she had like the split personality disorder type thing going on and stuff. I didn't see that coming at all. Like I thought that at most they were twins, and then it was revealed that it's like no, she's actually got this like personality disorder that's being manipulated by Zephia. It's like, yeah, she's got this like split personality disorder that's like being exasperated by Zephia of the Four Hounds and her magic powers. It's like that was a huge freaking twist for me. I really like how they did that.
Absolutely.
Then like the revelation of the revelation of Alir and their origin. And I just want to say right now regarding their stupid hair, I called it that it has some kind of plot significance. And wouldn't you know it, it had plot significance because their hair was originally all red because they're a child of Sombron as well, which was also crazy. Like I knew from the start that there was probably some kind of evil side of them, but I thought it was like the other way around where they actually were Lumera's child and like something happened during the war back then where Sombron twisted them. So that was a pleasant surprise, definitely.
100%. That was a nice surprise. That being said, chapter 22, you get to see Alir in all blue hair. And
Yep.
even with the outfit, the crazy Colgate toothpaste outfit, I think Alir looks much better with either all red or all blue hair.
Yeah. I mean, uh, uh, there is no argument for that because that's just it's irrefutable. They absolutely would look better with a single shade of hair. I never really cared for the dual tones though. Or
Right.
I never cared. I wasn't bothered by the dual tones rather.
Sure.
Um cuz it's just one of those unique anime things that you'd only get in Fire Emblem really.
Right.
Because they've always had to a degree some pretty exaggerated character designs, especially at the later portions of the series. And but yeah, I guess that's a good transition to go into the character designs. So, what were some standout characters for you?
The thing that I had, which was unfortunate, was like I remember specifically there were some characters where literally they only ever talked about one thing, and like Chloe, for example, was only interested in street food and would only talk about that, and then like daydreaming or like being in a fairy tale almost, and that was like her character in a nutshell, and that was it. There was nothing else to her really. I mean, I didn't read all of the supports with the characters,
Yeah.
but I know with Alir anyway, that's mainly what came up. I did like Ivy's story where it was more like a struggle, like, oh, you're her idol, stuff like that. You're the person she put her faith in when things are going down. So I liked that. I didn't. This game, honestly, I really don't know if I had too many standouts. Like, there's some character designs I liked, but the characters themselves weren't really all that special to me. like if I had to recall some off the top of my head that who I really liked, I mean, Ivy's really one of the only ones who really felt close to what they were trying to do with Three Houses.
Yeah. Yeah. Ivy was definitely really good. I got a little bit annoyed by her headdress.
Oh yeah,
It's
it
like
was pretty stupid.
you can never see her eyes. It's like, take the damn thing
Yep.
off. I
Yep.
even reclassed her, hoping that it would remove it, and it didn't. I was like, oh,
That's
come
funny.
on.
Right.
But yeah, Ivy was definitely a strong character. I like I said, I ended up reclassing her partially because of the headdress, thinking maybe a different class would remove it, but also I didn't really care for the flying classes too much.
Well, you don't
And-
like getting sniped for 35 damage and then
Oh my
immediately dying?
God. Oh my God, it happens so much. I tried so hard to stick it out, but like there were so many archers and wind mages in like every single battle I brought Ivy into on that wyvern. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking away your wings. You're just gonna huff it on feet like everyone else now.
If you use Engage Plus on her and she has a support level with the Lear, she gets the ability that blocks arrows and the having the wing trait. So that takes away that weakness completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Now
actually
that's a lot of work to get to that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I only used Engage Plus like 2 or 3 times out of curiosity because having a Lear paired with Emblem Lyn was so ridiculous that it just didn't make any sense to like do anything else. And I'll get more into that when we get down to the emblems themselves. But another really standout character that I really loved was Panette. She was like I was a little bit iffy about her because at first, just because the character design's a little bit out there with her face makeup and stuff like that. But then I was like, no, she's actually just this crazy little goth girl, and I love her. Like she starts out all modest, but then like when she gets into like her crits and stuff, it's like you looking down on me before she like annihilates the enemies and stuff. And like no, I loved Panette. Her character design was like just she was a fun character to have around. She's really, really tough too, especially paired with Ike.
yeah.
Like, oh my God, it was so good. And then Etier was pretty fun as well.
Yeah, she was my main archer.
Yep, same. I tried to also have Fagado because I also love Fagado. Like the second that guy comes on screen, it's just like, all right, I like this guy.
Right.
It's like he was really fun, and I think he was the voice actor that played Fagado did a really, really good job with him too. He really captured that character. And also, I mean, be kind of remiss if we didn't mention Yunaka.
That's true.
Yeah,
The
Slayer
one
in the shadows.
The one interesting character.
Yeah, she's so good. Yeah, I love the way that it introduced her as well, because I was almost thinking like she was one of the bandits at first that stole the ring. When
Yeah,
it really,
but
like,
in Fire Emblem though, if there's like a character with like who's actually talking and they have a unique model and face, most of
Yeah.
the time, unless they're a boss, you might be able to get them.
yeah, that was like that old guy on the boat. Did you talk to him and save him, or did you just
Yep.
kill him?
Thunder Mage,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him. I took his book and gave it to Ivy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Yunaka was another character that I really liked with like kind of like a not a split personality, but just like two sides that she had. Because she had her like really happy-go-lucky like showgirl side, but then she like get like deadly serious whenever she gets her crits. And like the tone of her voice goes from really high pitched to like really, really low and serious. I think the voice actor for her also did a really, really good job. And like all the voices of other characters that she did, like as she was acting, that was also the actress playing her as well. They didn't have like the actors of the character she was impersonating read those lines at all. So like when she was when she was impersonating Micaiah when you first meet her. Like, that was actually Yunaka's voice actress doing all of that. So that was
Really,
cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it sounded just like Micaiah
Right.
once you met her. I will definitely say, like, aside from those couple of characters, there were some that I enjoyed for their contributions in battle a lot, because Diamant was just a monster, almost on the same level as Alir as far as close quarter combat went. Like, with a sword, he was right behind Alir.
Yeah, I gave him a Wo Dao, and he just crit everything all the time.
Yeah.
He was basically
Yeah.
my sword master.
Yep. Yeah, and then I also had Kagetsu. So I had, my party did kind of lean a little bit sword heavy, but I compensated for that by having Alir paired with Lin for bows to kind of offset that, even though I also had Etienne in the party. But Diamant was just too good. I gave him, at first I took Roy right away and gave it to Alir,
Yeah.
because I was waiting for Roy to give to Alir until I got Lin. And then once I got Lucina, I gave Lucina to Diamant, and that was his permanent emblem for me. So speaking of emblems, let's go into the emblems. Because, yeah. So let's see, there were 12 of them until you get to a certain chapter in the story and Alir becomes an emblem, because that was another big freaking twist that was just wild. Like, oh,
DLC.
and then they said the thing. They said the thing. You are the Fire Emblem.
Yeah. You are the Fire Emblem. Did you have the DLC?
No, but
okay.
I'm probably gonna get it once they reveal another wave or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard that the Three Houses guys are completely busted.
The Three Houses are busted, and so is Tiki.
Is
you remember the man cat from Sacred Stones.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just waiting for another wave of the DLC to be announced to see if I want to hop on it now or wait until it's all out. But
just wait till it's all out, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't change that much until you get more.
Right. Yeah, but I don't think there was a single emblem that I didn't like. There were definitely a couple that I utilized in combat less than the others. And they were just kind of there as stat buffs, really. Because I didn't really do too much with Leaf or Erica.
Right.
Corin, I liked having Corin on Etienne because of her ability to drop fog, which apparently that's also a really, like, Yunaka also gets the ability to drop fog with Corin, and that's like a super, super busted build, apparently, that I've been reading the last couple days. So I might play with that in the second playthrough. Try that out.
Right.
But no, Lin was by far and wide my favorite emblem. I gave Emblem Lin to Alir, and is just the most busted thing you could imagine. Like, not only the having Astra Storm with Alir's stats, but having doubles with Alir's stats.
Oh yeah, that's broken.
It was so ridiculous.
And the enemies prioritize them because they only have 1 HP or whatever.
Yeah, like I would walk up, like, right in front of a boss, call doubles. They would die to the doubles.
Right.
It was just ridiculous. Yeah, I had so much fun with that. And then, like, the ability to do Astra Storm from halfway across the map and get, like, a preemptive strike on boss characters and stuff was also really, really useful. Like, and I just really, really liked the way that Alir's character model changed when paired with Lin, because all of the blue in their hair changed to Lin's green, so they had Christmas hair. And they were really festive as they rained down arrows from above.
Yeah, Astra Storm was definitely a standout.
And then Sigurd, I gave him to Alfred right from the beginning.
Same.
And that's where he stayed.
10 movement is just broken.
It was so good.
I was so
It's like,
excited when I was able to use the ride through move or whatever it's called, and then you just
yes.
lined up 4 enemies or 5 enemies in a row, and you just destroyed them.
Yes. Yeah, it was also really great for doing like hit and run tactics as well because you've got such a wide range of movement. You can run up and like poke at a guy that you know you're not quite enough to kill, but just get him weakened down for another unit. And
For
then you
sure.
still got this huge range of movement that you can move after the fact that a lot of times you could end up getting out of range of other enemies in the area.
Definitely.
Um, did you ever on the Somnial, there's a menu where you can look at rankings of like all the most popular character and emblem combinations.
I
Did you
don't
ever look at
have
that?
I don't have the online Nintendo Online or whatever you call it,
Oh,
so I wasn't
okay.
able to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Give you one guess which character and emblem was at the top.
And Martha and Lear.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, understandable. I mean, it is the first emblem that you get in the game and they are designed to pair with each other. So it's
yeah. I feel like that is the canon pair. I ended up actually
yeah.
giving my Lear Ike, and then after I got Engage Plus, I only used Engage Plus and not regular Engage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on a second playthrough I'm probably going to try to play around with Engage Plus a little bit more. Um I gave Ike to Panette,
Nice.
which was just another completely busted combination because Panette's already got a super high attack and she's got super high health. And then you give like you walk up to a group of enemies, activate Great Ether, and just watch them all freaking get
Melt. Yeah.
annihilated on your next turn. It just melts them. It's hilarious. I actually took a video capture of I think probably 6 enemies. Like she was completely surrounded on all sides, including the corners, by enemies, and just completely just ran through them with a Great Ether, and it was great.
Yeah, Aether was also a huge standout. My only nitpick is that it didn't do the animation on like one of the enemies or something.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just glad it was there in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of mainstay. Also, fun side fact, uh the English voice actor for Ike is the same English voice actor for Takayuki Yagami from the Judgment series, Greg Chun,
Wow.
which I know you haven't played the Judgment series yet, but you should
I need to.
because they're good.
It's on the list.
Ah, the list.
The list.
But yeah, so I really like that about Ike because I really like Greg Chun's work. He's a really talented voice actor. So
Mm.
hearing his voice was really cool. It was like one of those like Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen things. Like I recognize you.
Right.
Another combination that turned out a lot better than I anticipated it would when I set it up was Byleth and Fram. That like they actually did some work for me in my playthrough because I mean they've got Byleth's engage skill is the like what is it, like goddess dance, yeah, the goddess dance, which is basically just a souped up version of Seedall's dance that allows you to give multiple characters an additional round of turn. But like just the stat buffs that Byleth gave to Fram, she was untouchable.
Right.
And like running around, running up to all these like archers and mages and stuff and knocking their stuff out of their hands. Yeah, she actually did pretty good. Like as a character, she was really irritating. Like did you do her supports at all? I think you
Honestly,
kind of did.
unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like some of them, a lot of them kind of just bled together. So I can't give
Yeah.
you a good recollection, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, she was the one she was one of the retainers that you meet at the start, the one of the twins.
Okay, the one who's like obsessed with tea.
Yeah, no, she's the one that's obsessed with Alir.
Fram and yup. Okay.
Yeah,
And clan or what? Clan A or however
yeah,
you say it.
Fram and is it? I think it's just clan, Fram and clan,
Right.
something like that. I don't know. I clan fell out of my party pretty fast as soon as Saline joined, and then once I got Ivy, I dropped Saline for Ivy.
Sure.
But yeah. Did you ever play around with the what were they? The bond rings?
Oh, so when I couldn't find good stats or good combinations for my emblems, I did use some of the bond rings. I ended up getting at least one of every single one in the game because I just felt like, I mean, I after a certain point you have so much bond points that you have nothing to do with them, so I ended up spending them on the gacha.
Yeah. Yeah, I was initially saving up bond points because I thought they were what you spent on the training to
Yeah,
quickly increase your support with a bond ring
yeah,
or with an emblem. So, and then I found out that that wasn't the case, and it just uses the regular SP that they accrue as they level up. And it's like, oh, so then I just had all of the all of these bond fragments left over. So I can't remember exactly what I used them on. Or no. No, you do use the bond fragments to level up with emblems, but I also thought that you used the bond fragments to inherit skills.
oh, yeah, no, that's SP,
But that's
which
SP.
I do have a nitpick with that where I felt like I never had enough SP. Like I played a bunch of skirmish missions and I just barely had any. I ended up spending it all at the end, but it wasn't until like chapter like 23 or something where I was actually
Yeah.
in a place that I was able to use them. Maybe that's the point because they are pretty broken.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz I mean I had for Alir, I just like inherited all of the relevant skills from Lynn that were all the ones that didn't say like this does not stack if you have emblem Lynn synced and stuff. So like this I had her with speed +5 and just that alone just made Alir just completely untouchable.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I found for like some of the other characters that just didn't get as much attention in combat as like Alir did. Um it was a lot harder to come by SP for them in particular. So that made it a little bit more complicated to give them good skills to inherit and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. What else haven't we talked about yet? I think we've pretty much talked about everything. So I guess we can move into some final thoughts on the game. So yeah. So would you recommend Fire Emblem Engage? And what more importantly, like who would you recommend it to really? Because like obviously
Yeah.
because people that started the series with three houses going into this game are going to find a radically different thing because this game put gameplay above everything else, where Three Houses was a lot more narratively driven and was a lot more driven by its social features.
I really think it depends on what kind of game like what your preferences are. So if you're definitely like a story based person or something who really digs into characters like in Persona or in Three Houses or something, this really isn't the game for you. Um, I'd say that the story does have some merit later on, but it's like that whole argument where it's like, well, it keeps good. It gets good about 6 episodes in. Well, that's a
Yeah,
pretty hard sell to some people, to be honest,
right.
because then you're saying, well, what if I don't like it that long in? Well, that's the risk you take, right? So I'd say if you're in this for the gameplay, definitely go for it. If you're more of the Three Houses, Persona 5 type, social aspects, whatever, I'd say you'll probably be let down a little bit. But the gameplay here is top notch. My main thing that I hope they do for the next game is they just dropped the engage mechanic because it was really cool for this game. It's just my nitpicks are is that it kind of takes away from character identity. So yes, you can like get rid of everyone's weaknesses and stuff, and that was awesome. But I want there to be that identity with my characters when I'm raising an army. But all in all, yeah, if you're a gameplay person, I'd say it's definitely recommend.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As a longtime fan of the franchise and stuff, I mean, I was going into this really looking for and hoping to get a gameplay forward Fire Emblem game, because when I first got into Three Houses, it was just such, for me, it was, and you know what's really weird about that is I love the Persona series. I love all the social features in the Persona series. But for one reason or another, in Three Houses, the way that they balanced the social features with the combat, it didn't feel as good to me. So until I finally got to the point in Three Houses with the time skip and stuff, and now I'm actually playing through the game and really, really invested in it. I'm going to be finishing that one probably in the next week or so here. I just plain and simple, this is what I wanted. This is the Fire Emblem game that I wanted out of Fire Emblem Engage. So I really enjoyed it. For longtime fans of the franchise, or people that are just not really too caring about the story and just want a game that's really, really fun to play at the core level, this is just absolutely a recommend from me. And I'm interested to see where this franchise goes from here, especially now that it seems it's kind of hard to say if they branched off into two separate ways with like a traditional and the Three Houses thing. It's really the future. The next mainline entry is really going to, I think, solidify whether or not they're going to commit to like a branching style with the franchise or just go back to more traditional stuff like this.
For sure. Now people have like, two separate expectations. So they could really take it any direction they want. And like I feel like it's really solidifying Fire Emblem as something that's popular.
Yeah, and I mean, because of Three Houses in particular selling so well, I mean, Nintendo themselves now is considering Fire Emblem one of their like mainstay franchises. So it's finally gotten the series recognition it deserves. So I think there's some really bright days ahead. There's rumors. I mean, they're rumors, so take them as rumors, but I mean, there is rumor of a remake of Sigurd's game, Genealogy of the Holy War, that is coming down the pipeline in the next year or two here. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that one. And then the next original entry as well. But I love this series. I love what they did with Engage, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the series from here.
Same.
But yeah, so that was our look at Fire Emblem Engage. So, Max, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your evening here to record this with me. That was a really fun discussion, and I'm hoping to get you on the main podcast at some time in the future here, as well as doing some more of these game reviews, because this is pretty fun just to sit down and talk about a modern game a lot more, because we don't really get the opportunity to do that so much on the podcast itself.
Right.
So yeah, and if you enjoyed what you heard here or saw here, please leave a like, subscribe, share it with a friend, all that usual jazz, and we'll be back. Be sure to check out That One Gaming Podcast, available on all streaming platforms, as well as youtube.com/deliciousmorsels, and we will see you next time.